The 2019 general election is just 69 days away, and while the nation seems engulfed in election matters, some critical sectors of the economy may be grinding to a halt. The federal government might have reached some sort of agreement with oil marketers and averted impending fuel scarcity, but the education sector is on lockdown. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has been on strike for more than a month now, and they will soon be joined by the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Standpoint. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. On the show today, we will be looking at 2019 elections and matters arising, as well as the education sector. With me in the studio is a lawyer and a political consultant, Curtis Adigba. Well, also in the studio is a political scientist, Dr. Kayode Esuola. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I hope I got the pronunciation right.
Perfect.
All right, now, for the fourth time, President Muhammadu Buhari has refused assent to the electoral bill which was passed to him to sign into law by the National Assembly, stating that he could not sign the electoral bill into law at the time the country was preparing for elections, adding that if he signed the bill now, it would end up causing uncertainty and crisis in the land. The president says he will only sign the bill after 2019 elections. I'll start with you, Dr. Kayode. What do you make of the president's refusal to assent to this bill for the fourth time? Are there implications for the 2019 elections?
Well, the way democracy works all over the world expects a kind of synergy between the executive and the legislature. Because if indeed democracy is all about power of the people and their contribution into governance, the parliament that represents the people should, all things being equal, be speaking the mind
of the people.
And the mind of the people is what the president is supposed to represent and sign and implement, as the case may be. But that's at the level of ideal. We all know that in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. It is the case because politics, democratic politics, is a means of survival for the political class. Politics, democratic policies, is a way of massaging poverty for the people who are supposed to vote. And once you go into politics based on these two issues, from each of the two ends, you will not have a synergy. So what it implies is that there's no synergy at all within the political system in Nigeria. And for 2019 election, we will not be different from perambulating. All we've been doing for the past whatever years since 1990 is perambulating.
Really? How do you mean? You need to break that down.
Yeah, perambulating because if you look at the contradictions within the Nigerian polity that gave glory to the cry for democracy before 1999, and that made it possible for people to roll out the drum on the street for celebration in 1999 and beyond. All those contradictions, and I'm saying this with emphasis, all of them, not even one, still remain in the polity today.
What are these contradictions?
Matter of factly, they are worse. What are these contradictions? Corruption, poverty, hunger, brutality, state oppression, state repression, neglect of educational system, health system, electricity, facilities. You can go on and on and on. Everything that the Nigerian people were crying for before democracy still exists today. In fact, it is worse.
But these are the things that governments that we have, elected into power were meant to address. So invariably, what are you saying? That we have failed some sort in the leadership?
I just told you, not just in leadership. If you examine what I said there are two parts to governance in any society. You have the part of the leader, you have the part of the people. For the leader, politics is all about how to steal more money, build more houses, and send their kids to America, to UK for the best of life. For the people, it's all about getting stipend to massage their poverty. And
but
so
do they have an option?
Do they have an option? I'm afraid for now they don't. Okay? They don't, because when people get impoverished beyond a particular level, they become dehumanized. They can't think anymore. And when people can't think normally anymore, they will not but sell their buy price, for whatever you have. So people who ordinarily are supposed to critically assess issues and make informed choices will not be able to do so because they are too hungry to be able to do so. Emphatically, we need to say that the forefathers of democracy, those who designed democracy, whether from the Greek origin or the model you have in the United States today, they assume that whoever is going to participate in democratic politics is able to sit down, analyze issues critically, and make informed decisions. But you don't have such people in high number in a country where it is a debate to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage, where a bag of rice is 25,000 naira. You don't have such people in high number in a place like this. And I think the political class is deliberately maintaining this status quo to be able to have their way and maintain what I told you earlier, while they keep the people at perpetual check. Unfortunately so. And then, the matter is not helped further because we have a religious class that has no conscience. I think, from what I read in literature, religion is supposed to be the umpire of the society,
all right,
to balance morality, to do all these things. This evil goes on every day, and the religious leaders are saying nothing.
All right.
We're in trouble.
I'll take that as a sensitive aspect that we may not want to actually address here in terms of the religious aspect. But then I come back to the issue we are focusing on, which has to do with the president not assenting to the bill, electoral bill amendment for the fourth time. And really, it is raising some concerns for people. For you, how does this really, what does it mean, or what's the implication for the elections, Curtis?
Okay, thank you. You said we have 69 days
Yes.
to the election. And I'm just wondering what INEC can do between now and 69 days to fundamentally alter the trajectory of the 2019 polls. That's one. Number two, the Constitution allows the president to withhold assent,
Of course.
to any bill that is sent to him. If he feels that he shouldn't sign it for whatever reason. But then there's a solution. There is what is called a veto-defined majority in the two houses of the National Assembly.
After a certain number of days.
Yes, what it means is you can make that bill a law if you get two-thirds majority in both houses. Now, but you can also send the president a clear signal as to where you stand on this law. I'm talking about members of the National Assembly. By passing that law with a veto or assent withholding defined majority, that is clear to the president that, look, this bill has got popular support among members of the National Assembly. So you assent or you don't assent, it's going to be law. And that message is sent clearly to the president. Now, what has happened here is that it does appear, and I'm just thinking, as a citizen, sitting in his office as a citizen of the country, that it does appear to me there's a lot of politicking around the issue.
How do you mean?
Don't forget that the two houses of the National Assembly right now are controlled by
The opposition.
the opposition.
The opposition, yes.
And so the president probably feels that he's being railroaded into taking actions that probably wouldn't work well for the country. I am not thinking for the president. What I'm saying, okay, it is still not late. If the National Assembly feels that this bill is representative of the
Will
wishes
of the people.
and the decisions of the people to have these amendments carried out before the election, they should go ahead and override the assent withholder of the president. which is what we need to do.
Perhaps we could look at it this way, that because right from the first time, the president has raised certain
Objections?
objections.
Yes. Some
which-
were errors, in drafting,
Yes.
sequencing, and all kinds
and
of
all of
issues.
that.
Yeah.
Don't you think that perhaps the National Assembly should sit again and address these issues critically?
I think so. And then there were a couple of injections, into that law, which, like the one that sequenced the election, and all
Yes.
that. Yeah. So these were all the issues that the president had raised.
There were other issues
in the-
of INEC going to have about 9 days to, collate names of candidates from the 91 parties and all of that, and also the National Assembly overseeing local government elections, which some have said raised some constitutional controversy.
The point is the optics don't look right. Don't forget, Mr. President, no matter how altruistic he wants to be, he's still a politician. And his relevance depends on politics, okay? So he's not just going to cut away the feeder bottle of his politics just because he wants to please some people. And this is the point I am making. Doctor said, these guys represent the people. And the question we should be asking ourselves, how many members of the National Assembly actually passed this bill? How many people? Because, they were also complained by some party members that their leaders just pushed these bills across because they just wanted to achieve certain goals. And so that could also have played very highly on the mind of Mr. President in withholding his assent. But then he had to find a reason. And because it is a political stroke legal process, there is a leeway for the members of the National Assembly to act by defying the president with a two-thirds majority in both houses, and it becomes law.
Do you think that will happen?
Well, if they have the number, it should happen. If it doesn't happen, it means they don't have the number.
Well, do you think, Doctor, that that could happen eventually?
It's very unlikely to happen in Nigeria. It should be able to get done, but if, again, they have the majority. But it's very unlikely in Nigeria, especially coming from the background that Mr. President is still a politician. And when you say somebody is a politician in that context, what you mean is that his own interest, the way he perceives things as a person, for his own political party, for his clan, for his people, will matter more than the collectivity. And if you see it from that perspective, it is not likely to happen. People are capable of doing it at the legislative level, but in Nigeria, it's not likely to happen. We know the power of the executive. We know what they can do to frustrate this in 1,000,001 ways. So it's not likely to happen, in my view.
But no, I don't think so, Doctor. I think it's lack of political will. And because they don't have the buy-in of so many people. If not, we've had bills that 2 nights National Assembly passed.
And that's why I was talking
high
about.
Majority.
Yes, that's why I was talking
Do you
about.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if they want to pass this bill,
Yes.
and they feel the country needs it as in the best interest of the country,
Yes.
it does not matter how the president feels about it. They can't come together, find common grounds,
Yes.
and say, look, in the interest of the country, we will move ahead. But I can tell you that for free, that they won't be able to do that because the National Assembly is highly fractured along party lines.
Yes.
True.
And nobody is thinking about how do we put together and find common grounds to move the country forward.
Yes.
It's all about politics of self.
That's what I'm
You know, we want to come back in 2019
Yes.
to whatever positions we are holding now, and we will do it anyhow. So this is our own way of influencing that process. And that's how the president sees it. You understand? So that's why it's going to be difficult.
Yes.
You still have a National Assembly that is struggling to retain leadership. You know, every day you hear about moves to get one
party or
leader
the
out
other.
or
Or
I'm bringing
impeach
some.
this,
So there is this mutual suspicion that is running around everywhere, and so they can't get the number to override the president.
I think we are basically saying the same thing. If you, right from the outset, I declare that politics in Nigeria has the coloration of this desperation, selfish interests, my clan, my people, my political party, rather than,
But,
as
you
expected
know,
of democracy, the interest of the
This
But one-
interest
one
exists
thing-
everywhere in the world.
Yes.
Yes. But they are not
Politicians-
synergized.
See, politicians
Yes.
are bound to dig in deep
Yes.
to protect their territory.
Of
That
course.
we know. But the difference between ours and others,
We allow that influence,
Yes.
whatever decisions we're making, instead
override
of override the
the
decisions.
collectivity.
The collectivity.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yes,
And that's why it's not likely to happen.
One of the other thing that makes this a source of worry is the fact that this bill was meant to legitimize the use of the card readers. And so that's why a lot of questions are being raised, the eyebrows are being raised with this. Does that really affect anything, do you think?
Well, you know, the issue of card reader for me, I'm not going to stay here and criticize judgments rendered by the learned justices. But of course, the extant law, which guides the operations of INEC, says that they don't have the right to conduct election and do all kind of things that will make the election fair and fair. And under that power, INEC assumed the power to introduce the card reader until some people made it an issue. And of course, that's not the only issue people take for litigation. This is one country that 2 or 3 years into the into the 4-year term of government, some people are still in court, challenging the tenure
Yes.
or the election of the office holder. You know, so I don't think that is going to stop people going to court for whatever reason. Even when the card readers work, you're also going to hear about how it's been manipulated or hacked. The fact is that it is difficult to find people in this part of the world who are prepared to accept the outcome of election and said, look, this is what the people has decided. Look, no election is perfect anywhere. The United States that we see as the North Star of democratic governance and conduct of elections are having their own crisis.
Of course.
In North Carolina, we're talking about how fraud took place now. You heard of what happened in Florida, where they had to recount and all that.
Yes.
In California, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, all kind of the senatorial election in Arizona had the result released after about 3 weeks because of all issues. So I think there are adjustments that we as people need to make. And that is to say, when the results are out and the process are deemed to be free, fair, or credible. You know, we should be able to accept this and move on. You know, this thing that it has to be done my own way, it's not going to move the country forward.
Okay, let's move forward now. Though some Nigerians are making efforts to see that elections here are not dominated by two personalities, it seems that 2019 will not be the year those efforts will yield results. The 2019 presidential election is looking like a two-horse race already between President Buhari and Atiku Abubakar. The People's Democratic Party candidate flagged off his campaign last week in Sokoto and is taking his campaign train to the southwest, while President Buhari will begin his on Monday. Would we see critical issues being addressed this time, or will it be a campaign of calumny? Doctor.
Well, I don't see issues come up in Nigerian election. And in same days, let me pick a few points from what Barrister just said. You see, if you have disputes in electoral procedures in, say, the United States, and you have disputes in electoral procedure in Nigeria, the two are disputes, but the primary reasons behind the disputes are clearly different, okay? While an American will probably disagree with the outcome of an election because of the need to change fundamental issues in the polity, it's not unlikely to give you the same answer here. It is probably because, hey, I've spent so much money, I've sold my house into this politicking, so I need to desperately get there to take my own. I think we need to mature into that level where we will begin to go into elections by issues, not by desperation for what to eat. Now, that brings me back to your question. Are there likely to be issues this time? Or it is still going to be the same name-calling, calumny, tribal arrangement and all these things? I do not see anything that has changed between 2015 and now that we suggest, empirically at least, that issues will come up in Nigerian election as at this time. In fact, it appears to be getting worse.
How?
Given the hunger, given the acrimony, given what we saw in Ekiti, in Osun, issues never came up there. And those were supposed to be rehearsal grounds, okay, for the 2009 election, which we're going to have in the 60-something days ahead. I do not think there are signals that we are going to be having elections of issues. It is still going to be the same thing that we've been having since 2015, unfortunately.
All right, Curtis, do you share the same sentiment with Doctor?
20%.
Okay, so let's see what happens to the remaining 80%.
Well, I think we're already having issues. We're discussing issues. If you look at the two major political parties, the issues have been framed. When you look at the APC campaign and the way their surrogates are going about it, it seemed to me like the key issue, as far as this election is concerned, is going to be corruption and character of the participants or contestants. And so you hear messages like, we can't afford to go back to the 16 years of waste and all that. You hear people talk about one person not being able to go to America because he will be arrested over there and he doesn't have a visa and all that. Okay? And then on the other side, on the flip side, you are hearing about somebody being a fundamentalist and being incompetent, and that there is hunger in the land.
Tribalistic.
Yes, you understand? There's hunger in the land. People are suffering. They have no food and all that. Of course, there always be hunger in the land. Government don't have to go around distributing food to everybody. So I wouldn't agree that we're not talking about issues. What I would rather say is that issues are not dominating. And sometimes the agenda for an election or the framework for crucial issues that we should be looking at should be set by the people.
That's what I was
Who
going
are
to
the
ask.
victims?
Can they
Incidentally,
force, you know,
they
these
can.
people
Look,
to make sure that they address these issues?
elections are not about voting to elect candidates alone, as we have seen in other parts of the world. They are also issue elections. Okay? You can say, oh, what do we do about this situation? Let me give you an example. I think about 4 or 5 years ago, California decided that because of their size, they cannot afford to have too many candidates running an election for the Senate. So they came up with this law. I think it's proposition something, I've forgotten the exact number, to say that
or something.
when you are conducting primaries to choose candidates for the parties, it will be done on non-party basis. The first 2 candidates that will emerge with the highest number of votes will be the candidates of the parties. It does not matter if they come from
Any
the
party.
Republican Party or the Democrats. And so in the last election that Kamala Harris, the senator representing, the junior senator representing California won, there were 2 Democrats. On the ballot, there was no Republican. That was what the people of California wanted. All right? And so some of the issues we are talking about, restructuring, doing this and all that, are issues we can actually put on the ballot and say to Nigerians, what do we... Nigerians can make that demand.
Are we that politically mature?
We can. Look, maturity is a process. It doesn't start, it's not something you just stamp at once. There is a gradual build-up, just like the way the human being grows. He first of all learns by crawling, he walks, he learns to talk, he learns to appreciate. We need to do that. And the only way we can do that is the people themselves need to identify the issues that are crucial to them. Look, I go out to campaign with people and I'm trying to talk to people. And when you talk to people, they tell you their number one problem today is money. Everybody is looking for money. They don't even care about the character of the candidate. And this is what I say to them. When they give you all their money in running for an office, and they get into that office, they must recoup
Of course.
that money first, maybe 5 times the amount that they spent. So they're not bothered about you. And so you begin to complain, oh, they've forgotten you. But there's a much more fundamental problem, and that is how do we own the political parties. If you don't own the parties, but they just go to contest on the parties, you are not likely to have a say on who the candidates will be. That's what you see in the major political parties. Because
It's with the kind of political atmosphere we have and the kind of what we have in the country. Can we own this political
We
party?
can.
Is it possible?
I think he just ended up giving me 70% in terms of 20%. That's what he said. Fundamentally, he just mentioned, when you go onto the street and you ask the average person right on the street, he's not talking about issues.
No, he's not.
He's talking about survivor. It's only the elite. You and I who come to the studio, who grant interview to the papers, and we are very few who have issues at the center of our head. And that is why I said we're not likely to be different from what we're going to have in 2019, because issues emerge only when people survive. Look, I was talking to a journalist on the Austrian election, and then he conducted an interview to the people and was asking them, will you be ready to sell your votes? And if so, how much? And then I look at the average person in the queue. Look at the shoe, look at the shirt, look at the head, look at his health. You don't need the wisdom of Solomon to conclude that that man, given 5,000 naira, is going to vote the other way against his conscience. And that is why I probably always speak to the current administration. Right. That's not enough to fight corruption. You cannot even fight corruption when you have not addressed the reward system.
All right.
Corruption in Nigeria.
Perhaps you conclude on your point when we return from this break. Do stay with us.
We are here.
All right, you're still watching Standpoint. And before we went on the break, Doctor, you were trying to make a point.
I was trying to say, while it is very important to fight corruption, I don't even like to use the fight. I like to use manage, because no part of the world has been able to fight corruption. But when it's important to manage corruption, you must use the right methodology. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "Ajoje odun, tenikon obani." Where you leave majority of your citizens into abject poverty, you can't fight corruption, because those ones who are stealing high-profile money are being aided and abetted by those people you have neglected. If a public officer steals money, when he's taking that money to bank, he's being escorted by a policeman who is being paid what cannot take him home. He will see that corruption is taking place, but he will not talk because he's also not satisfied. The driver, the housemaid, all of these people are supposed to be part of the system that will blow the whistle, have been neglected. So the government today should balance the reward system. I'm not saying it should be equal, but if there is balance, people will see less need to be corrupt, and then they will be ready to fight corruption where they see one, as the case may be. I don't know how I got to that corruption issue, but
so it stemmed from the point he made,
point that he tried to
talking about the issues.
All
right, we have a caller on the line, Jare Oba on the line from Ondo State, right?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, Jare Oba, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Jare?
Yes, yeah, good afternoon, all of
Jai is not there, but before we move forward, corruption, is that really the issues that we should focus on this time around? Because there are several issues that Nigerians have been faced with that needs to be tackled if we really want to look at issue-based campaigns.
Okay, let me make this point. I hear people all the time say, oh, this government shouldn't be fighting corruption alone. And I agree to some extent. And the government indeed is not fighting corruption alone. The government is also embarking on other projects and then making adjustments in different areas of our national lives.
All right.
Now, the point is we must fight or manage corruption. Because if we don't, we're not going to move forward to anywhere. Just imagine that funds that are provisioned or budgeted for projects, for roads, for railways, for hospitals, for schools end up in private pockets. And then what has been sustaining our economy is the trickle-down effect of those funds. We had an economy where government would choose the winners and the losers. You know, all you need to be a winner is to know somebody highly placed in government who's got access to those funds. And then you run the errands for them, and you also make the money or you present them. Now, the few questions I've asked some people, you know, from my interactions with them, this economy that was so buoyant, that was so great, and some are suggesting, trying to revise our recent history. If the fundamentals of the economy were so great and so big and so strong and reliable, what happened in 2-3 years? Don't forget that we rebased an economy, and then we said it had the highest GDP in Africa.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we had rent collectors. They were just going around, and you understand, there are still companies with strong fundamentals who are doing well in this country, right or wrong.
True.
Dangote, for instance, Dangote Industries, they're doing well. The banks are churning out billions of profits. All right? So when I hear people say, you know, these things just happen overnight, but we know in this country that many of the countries that depends on just one product like Nigeria, as a result of the shocks to both supply and price of crude oil in the international market, also suffered some form of economic difficulties. You know, look at Venezuela, for instance. Even Saudi Arabia is beginning to diversify from oil. This is a country that depends on oil. That's why you see the Crown Prince, the MBS, you know, holding all kind of economic summit in Saudi Arabia, trying to move.
All right.
So it's not correct that this government is fighting corruption alone. They're also doing quite a lot of other things. But I agree that we should fight corruption. And like he said, I believe also that we should do more to prevent.
We need to move forward.
Prevent it.
Quickly, you can.
We should do more to prevent
rather than just fight.
rather than recover or react.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving forward now, 3 times they have met and 3 times they have failed to reach a truce. The Academic Staff Union of Nigerian universities have been on strike for more than 30 days now, and several meetings with the federal government has failed to yield any result. ASU is demanding that government honors the agreement it reached with the union in 2013, which is to provide over 1 trillion naira as funding for the education sector. But government says it does not have such amount of monies at this time. While ASU and government bicker, students are being denied education. Doctor, don't you think all of the strikes are hurting the wrong target, which are the students? Because they have been denied education. How will this liberate the system when the students are suffering?
If you ask me, the straight answer I'm going to give you is that refusing to honor an agreement that is willingly entered into is the advent and beginning, the alpha and omega of corruption. Is
the government refusing, or it's saying its hands are tied, we do not have this money?
How? I don't understand. Governments don't sign agreements based on rumors or the beauty of the pages of the paper. Just like the bill that the president refused to sign. He probably refused to sign because he had consultants, personal assistants, who would take expert look at each aspect of those papers, and that paper, as case may be, and then advise that this is what you should do. I believe same was done when these agreements were signed with ASU. Now, after signing, the government decided to renege on that agreement. I think any government that is fighting corruption should not even be thinking of saying so in the public because of this refusal to sign this agreement. Having said that, ASU is a union that we must all be praising God for having in this country.
Are you serious?
Because it is a union that is not just interested in its own pocket. That union is interested in the survival of the children of the masses. The primary education system...
By going on strike?
No, I'm bringing this case up.
All right.
The primary education system is completely collapsed in Nigeria. You don't send your kids to public primary school anymore because you can't even get the good ones. Secondary has been polarized into those that are for the elite and those for the commoners. You have unity schools, you have non-unity schools, which the children of the wretched of the heart send their children to. This deliberate classification of Nigerians into poverty, non-poverty line is what ASU is talking about. Now, that the only thing that we have that is working in the public today is the university education. Because whether you go to Cambridge Primary School or Suraju Secondary School, so long as you decide to school in Nigeria, you are still coming to the UNILAG, the UIs of this world. That is the point of unity. And ASU is saying, don't destroy this system again. Give facilities, give funding that you are supposed to give so that you will not destroy this place and allow our children to go into errors. And on the issue of morality, I don't think a serious-minded government in any part of the world will leave universities in his own country and be sending children of the elite to universities abroad.
It's their choice, isn't it?
It is not their choice. You don't use public money to fund private pocket. Do you see any president in any part of the world where they are serious sending their children outside the country to go and use public money to fund private pocket? That is what we are saying. If indeed there is a need to cause change in the government, I expect a breakaway from the 2000, the 2001, 2002, in which ministers, commissioners, and presidents will now begin to send their children to UNILAG and UI. They don't do that not because they don't like these places, but because they know the facilities are not there. Okay. They go away into the other places. And so they are not stakeholders in the Nigerian educational system because their children don't go here. And that is why the students themselves should understand that the strike is not against them. Far away from it. My brother, my sister, I am compelled by my pocket, courtesy of Nigerian government, to ensure that my children will go to UNILAG or UI or LASU or OSU. I can't afford any other thing. Okay? But those of them who can afford it are telling the lecturers and the entire system to go to hell and burn to ashes. That is not to say. Anyway, let me allow him to
I think the issues are more complicated than the way you have explained them.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think that this crisis is intractable.
Yes.
And unfortunately so, because you don't want any government to toil with the education of our children,
of course.
Especially the institutions. You want to see the strength of any country in terms of innovation, automation, and even development of policies. These all happen within the grounds of schools and all that. So we should be encouraging these people. Now, having said that, it's like I said, it's a much more complicated. It's a matter of priority. And don't forget that in this country, we don't have only one government. We have systems of government in different places.
Federalism.
So they also have to put enough priority on education. Now, when you send the budget to the National Assembly, we're talking about the country, you know, so because it's a lot easier to just look at the federal government and say this is where the problem lies. There is a development goal that countries are to attain in education.
Of course.
And progressively, government move towards that figure to attain. But this is what we've seen over the years. You send the budget of the nation to the National Assembly, and they cut it in pieces, you know, and appropriate money here and there, okay? Now, this is a country where the National Assembly budget is 125 billion. You don't say that going for education, okay? This is a country where we're spending hundreds of billions on election, 2-3 day sales, just to pick some people to get into power. That doesn't happen for education. Now, having said that, I also do not think that the only weapon left for ASU is strike on every disagreement. They should engage the government more in meaningful conversation. You know, because if they are saying all that we are doing is to protect these children and to protect the institutions, and at the slightest disagreement with government, you shut down the schools. How are you helping? How are you helping that process? So that's one. Then number two, there are also state governments that have universities, and that these lecturers are also lecturers in those schools are also members of ASU. So that's not the federal government problem. That's a state. These are state government problem. And so the point I'm making is we need to place more emphasis or priority on the educational system. But the penchant of labor unions in this country to go on strike at every disagreement is also not working well for the country. And they must bear that at the back of their mind.
Let us look at it this way. And in looking at it the way I want us to look at it, we need to address fundamental issues.
All right.
You see, there's always crisis when stakeholders have vested interest.
What are these interests?
In Nigeria,
Their schools?
that is the problem.
What are these interests?
If I am a minister of education, my children should go to public university. If I do not send my children to public university and I send them elsewhere, I am fraudulent, I am corrupt.
Doctor, we have a democratic system where people have a right
to choose.
Please allow me. Please allow me.
Quickly, because we are running out of time.
I'm saying stakeholders are vested
You know
interest.
what you are saying now?
If I have my brother running a private university,
Doctor, let me
I
tell
already
you,
have a vested interest.
there was
I
a
have
bill.
lost moral rights.
You know,
to
there
be
was a
able to do
bill in the National Assembly that was read on the floor of the House of Representatives. The intention of that bill was to prevent children of public officers from traveling abroad to school.
Yes.
It was shut down.
Yes.
3 days ago, the Speaker announced that the thinking of most members is that it will infringe upon the rights of individuals to make those decisions. And so, again, we come back to the same point. Look, the reality is that I share with you that if they have their kids
in those
these
universities,
schools, they won't want those schools shut down.
Shut down, definitely.
That
is
That's
taken,
clear.
and I accept that with you.
There must be stakeholders in the system where they feed.
But you know what?
You know?
All over the world,
Yes.
there is the liberty
Yes.
to make those decisions.
Yes.
And that's why you have even schools in the United States sending students to other countries in form of an exchange program. I mean, we know,
Exchange program.
Yes, an exchange program. You understand? So now, for me, you know, the fact that their kids are not in this school.
You see, very quickly, let me talk about strike. You know, we have settled this, we can always debate. Let me talk about this on strike. ASU doesn't go on strike at beck and call. Please, go and check record. ASU will always use strike. In fact, it is inscribed in the constitution of ASU that strike is the last thing.
option.
Because ASU is an intellectual union.
But
you don't
the
just
way
go on the
it
street.
seems,
No,
it's any little thing.
It's not
any
any
little
when
thing,
last did ASU go on
I
strike?
think
they go on strike.
The problem is with the interpretation of the provision of their law.
Yes.
I think the way it's looking to most Nigerians,
Yes.
the resort to strike has become the first and the last option.
No, I don't think
It's no
so.
longer the last option.
In fact, the public sympathy for ASU this time is higher than it has ever been in the history of Nigeria.
Well,
because
you think?
people know
All right,
that this government
Doctor, every
is,
group-
is shameless
No.
for not honoring agreements
Please, your
that
words,
is signed.
your language,
Doctor,
your language, please.
I'm sorry,
Your use
it's
of
getting
language, please.
emotional.
Let me
if
tell you
a
something.
government
No.
refuses to honor
Let
its
me
own
tell you-
agreement,
let-
then
Doctor, let me tell
who
you.
do I trust?
Let me
All
tell
right,
you,
Let's quickly.
you must also understand that the mere fact that government is having difficulty
Yes.
in keeping with the terms of the agreement does not mean the government is shameless.
The
or
same
does
government
not
is bailing out a bank, privately owned bank, with billions of naira,
This
and
happens,
cannot fund university education.
this happens everywhere in the world. It's
But
a matter of
are we
priority.
talking about the Nigerian
So it happens
peculiarity
everywhere.
or everywhere in the
Let's
world?
focus, please.
It happens everywhere in the world.
So we're
the
not getting
issue
our
on the
priority
ground.
right.
Let's
Yes.
well,
You know.
for you, we may not be getting
We're
our
not
priorities
at all.
right, but
Not
happens
at all.
everywhere in the
Yeah,
world.
Not at all.
the government negotiator is saying that the government cannot handle the funding of this alone. It's looking at having soft loans for students. Is ASU looking at exploring that?
Has it ever worked? Is it the first time this is being introduced in Nigeria? As I was growing up as a child, you had student loan board. They did work. Was it not the same members of the political class that ruined the place, that siphoned the money, that collapsed the bank and all these things? Look, ASU is an interest group. If the federal government wants our expertise on how to solve the problem, we give it to them. We have always been giving it to them. But look, the function of the government is to provide for the people, welfare, security, and all this. ASU is an interest group. We are saying that our interest is at stake. As teachers, I don't want to teach half-baked students anymore. I don't want to train a child for medicine here and quickly, 2 months after he gets my certificate, he goes to UK, Canada, and begins to practice. We are doing ourselves injustice. This is what ASU is saying. Okay?
How does government stop people from going abroad to practice? Look, these are personal decisions.
No.
Doctor, let me ask you a question.
If the facilities were here, these
So
people will not be going away desperately. It's not just about traveling to do exchanges. We all go for seminars, we go for conferences.
All right,
But
so
our children are desperately going away.
Are you saying that if the government decides to say, okay, you're saying that about ₦1 trillion is what the universities need, if that is sorted out, are you saying that that will sort every other issue? We will not have strikes, we will not have anything to do with strikes,
Because
and everything will be sorted?
The money put together was a product of empirical documentation.
Doctor, can I ask you a question?
Assessment. Yes, okay, please.
Do universities mismanage funds?
Look, everywhere in Nigeria, there is mismanagement of funds.
So
it is not the role of ASU to punish those who mismanage funds.
Whose role is
those
it
who
supposed
work
to
in
be?
the universities are public servants. If they are found mismanaging any fund, they should be sanctioned.
You know why I asked you, I asked you this question?
Yes, please.
You know, it does look like what you are saying is every time ASU needs money, government should release the money, and government shouldn't be worried about how the funds are used.
the funds are spent.
And when the same government moves against the people to fight them because the funds were mismanaged or stolen, you say the method for fighting the corruption again is a problem.
No, I've never said that.
No, but you just said it on this program. On this program, you
the
said
methodology,
the
in the sense of not giving people to feed. So the point, you expect them to steal.
Look, the issue of corruption is hydra-headed.
Yes, we know.
And we also must understand
that it is the role of the government to fight corruption, not the role of ASU.
Yes.
If government employ people and they cannot checkmate them in their corrupt practices, then ASU will not do that for the government.
What I want you to understand here is that ASU is not entirely an innocent party as far as the issue of mismanagement of our educational opportunities.
Well, I can tell you 100% that my union is. And if we have facts, we can put them on the table.
Look, okay, so what is the strike about right now?
The strike is all about...
ASU is being paid their salaries, right? And schools are being funded.
I don't get this.
No, what is this? What is the strike right now?
The strike is about complete revitalization of the university system.
Okay, complete.
And it's holistic.
And in one process.
In what?
In one bullet payment.
This process started in 2009.
And so,
not now.
So would you then argue that the governments that were in power before now were also shameless and dishonest?
You are a lawyer. A government is a continuum.
Of course, that's what it's supposed to be.
A person can be leading the government at any point in time, but the government is a
what
continuum.
he is saying is the agreement was made in 2009.
2009.
Yes. And so you calling this government
shameless
for not meeting up with an agreement that it didn't enter into.
Look, I just told you that government don't sign agreements based on impulse. They sign an agreement based on facts that they can see. When the government came up, we sent it to them. This is the agreement that was there.
And they resigned.
Not only did the government resign, government also signed memorandum of action.
And so if it decides,
now we are going to implement.
And if it decides to implement
if I cannot
all of that,
trust government, who should I trust?
Implementing progressively, or they are not doing anything at all.
No implementation is taking place at all.
So this strike now, what happens if the government does not meet up with this agreement?
So what will happen?
Well, unions
completely shut down the educational system.
No. Unions don't operate at the level of individual. The National Working Committee of the union will always decide what happens. But I am telling you that I don't think a government that is fighting corruption should refuse to honor an agreement that they willingly signed.
Thank you.
It doesn't speak sense to
Well,
me.
thank you,
Not in
gentlemen.
any way.
That's the much we can take on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. Well, that's all we have for you today. You can watch the repeat broadcast tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Enjoy your weekend.
Hey, I'm flying.